Thank you, Madame la President, Director General, distinguished colleagues, ladies and gentlemen. Refugees, internally displaced persons, and stateless people have the same capacities and needs as the rest of us. They also have the same rights and responsibilities and look for opportunities, like other individuals and communities, to support their families better and act as productive members of the communities they are part of. For refugees and other forcibly displaced persons, safe and dignified work that supports self-reliance and active participation in community life can also be a pathway to a comprehensive, durable solution. While it's not necessary and it's not even possible at the beginning of a crisis to determine what will the final solution be for the persons who've been displaced, it is important to seek to stabilize their situation and to look to a dignified existence. However, there are legal barriers to working for millions of refugees. Less than half of refugee hosting countries formally grant the right to work, including social and economic rights to recognized refugees. Precarious legal status and curtailment of work rights can increase the risk of exploitation for refugees in particular. Refugees are less likely to speak up about exploitative working conditions and protection risks. The fact that refugees cannot return to their country of origin, where their life and freedom are threatened, limits their choices and options. Refugees are also more likely to be exposed to other forms of exploitation. Not sure what. The ring? Refugees are also more likely to be exposed to other forms of exploitation and resort to negative coping mechanisms when they face high levels of economic distress because they're denied the opportunity to be self-reliant. Being too long out of the labor market can dull skills and prevent knowledge and skill acquisition by the next generation, with the consequence of limiting opportunities and encouraging dependency and work in the unregulated informal sector and in exploitative industries and systems. While the net positive effect over time of immigration on economies is well documented, the impact of forcibly displaced populations on local economies is less well studied. Recent studies point to the positive overall economic impact with some variations for local conditions and experience, but more study is required. The ILO and the members of its tripartite structure have key roles to play in supporting the inclusion of refugees, internally displaced, and stateless persons in the labor markets of their host countries. And here I'd like to outline 7 steps that could be considered for action here today. First, identifying market needs and employment opportunities for refugees and host communities. Second, ensuring the participation of employers, trade unions, public authorities, and others in adjustments and in specific programming. Third, considering how to achieve skills recognition, including when people have fled without all documents and when education and training institutes are no longer available to attest to the skills that they already have. Fourth, inclusion of refugees, IDPs, and stateless persons in occupational health and safety measures and in systems designed to support representation by all groups. Number 5, including refugees, IDPs, and stateless persons in the shift from informal to formal markets. Number 6, protecting fundamental principles and rights at work and paying particular attention to those for whom speaking out carries greater risks. And finally, number 7, by conducting further studies on the impacts of refugees and other forcibly displaced persons on the labor markets. I'd like to highlight, in closing, the link between jobs and livelihoods, protections and solutions, and frankly, peace and stability. We look for the day, we've commented here this morning on the Syria emergency, but so many other emergencies around the world. We have decades now of experience, as my fellow panelists have mentioned in their comments. We see the link between informal labor, inability for refugees to work, to develop their skills, to look to the future, and an inability to rebuild their societies. We expect refugees to return to their home countries in safety and in dignity when the moment allows, but return to do what? They need to be able to rebuild their societies. How is that possible if for a year, 2 years, 5 years, 10 years, maybe 2 or 3 generations, they haven't had a livelihood? They haven't developed their skill set. They've been living on assistance. We need to empower refugees so that they can be the bridge. This is the interest for all of us. They can build the bridge to peace and stability, whether it's return to their home country, movement to a third country, or contributions in the host society. If adults are not able to access the labor market, is it the children who become the breadwinners? This is another cycle we see in refugee displacement. We know these patterns. We know these traditions. We need to be drivers of change. And as the panelists have all mentioned this morning, 2016 presents a year of opportunity for us to break these cycles and ensure that through jobs and livelihoods, access to the labor market, and a dignified existence, we place refugees in a position to contribute to the well-being and future of all of us. Thank you.